Guys, we're here working on these float shocks that we just pulled off of our crashed Z1 Turbo Snow Pro. So I had a front end impact on the PTO side here, which is the left hand side. There's the lower A-arm, which you can see snapped right off. The two upper A-arms are both tweaked, and as well as the tie rod. And during that impact, it also bent the top cap of the shock. So we're gonna have to replace this cap. Luckily, I do have a whole bunch of spare ones kicking around. And the reason for that is the shock right here. Back when we were a dealer from 2009 to 19, I had quite a few demos that I ran these shocks on. So this shock I actually bought in 2014 for my XF 137 limited turbo that I had, just to try it out, see what the difference would be adding that Evo chamber. Not a lot of guys like just the stock float shocks, so I added these shocks, and it actually changed the turbo quite a bit. I was able to soften up the main chamber a bit, add more pressure to here to stop the body roll. Which that was always a big problem that guys had with the floats, where they always said they were valved way too hard. So after figuring out the benefits of these, we found that we could get this Evo chamber and end cap, because it's all one to here, but you could get this as a complete part number from Cat off of the HCR mountain sleds, and it was very affordable. So we used to do lots of upgrades, and we sold new sleds. Like I said, I had this on my demo, so I'd let people try it out and try the difference of an Evo shock versus a regular float. And a lot of guys opted for the upgrade. So as a result, I have lots of these kicking around. So we're gonna go over how to change out this and make it look like this. Okay, first thing that we're going to do is put the shock in the vise here. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Is the easiest way for most people, because you don't have the proper tools, but everybody has a pipe wrench. This is the proper shock holding tool. Fox has told Cat to put in their tool catalog, so this is a Cat factory shop tool. Like I said, I'm sure most of you guys don't have that and don't want to buy it. For the odd time you might want to do this. So pipe wrench works fine. You just have to be very careful when you're twisting the body that it doesn't crush it and compress it. Very minimal amount of pressure is needed. And the other thing that you need to be mindful of is you're probably going to put marks on your decal here. So if you don't care about that, not a big deal. But if you want to try to save that, then try to put something over those jaws. But as you can see, this one's already damaged from the impact, so I'm not too concerned about that. The other thing that you're going to want to do is either get one of these tools to remove the Schrader valve, or you can just take the air out manually. So take all the air out of the shock, air it right down, because this chamber is full of air. And we don't want to start removing that when it's still pressurized. Otherwise, it could pop up and impact something up here to do damage. So, got all the air out of there. Just going to loosen that Schrader valve just to make sure everything is out completely. Okay. Take our pipe wrench. We're going to put it on here. You want to make sure that you clear that Schrader valve. We're just going to put a light pressure, and we're going to turn it. So once you crack it loose, usually you can just use your hand and thread it the rest of the way here. once it's unthreaded, just slide it up as high as you can. And that exposes the shock shaft in there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to get some heat on here. So there's red Loctite holding this cap on. We're going to heat this up. And we are going to put this shock shaft into the vise. And again, if you don't have this tool, I'm going to use this tool because I don't want to damage that shock shaft because I have it. But you can either, if you have soft jaws for your vise, definitely use those. Or just wrap the shaft in something so it doesn't mar it up. You don't want to nick any of that chrome. And then we're just going to heat that up and unthread it. We'll be back in a minute. All right, so as you can see, we have the shock clamped into the vise there. So what I did was I took out the bushing out of here, just over here. I don't want to heat that up and melt that. It's just plastic. And I also took the O-ring out of the cap here. So as you can see in this one here, that O-ring right there, that's down in there, which helps keep air pressure in there from leaking past the threads. This was one of the first ones that we did years ago. We were kind of new to all this, and this one was heated up with the O-ring in, I can tell, because that O-ring, if it'll focus there, is all burnt and melted. So like I said, this was probably one of the first ones that we did. So that's garbage. So I'm just going to reuse this O-ring here because that one's still in great shape. I will put it into the new cap when the time comes. So we're going to take our torch here. Just a propane torch is all you need. And we're going to heat it up. We're going to put the torch underneath here, heat up that shaft, heat the cap up a bit right in here because that's where it threads in. That's where the Loctite is. And once you start seeing some smoke coming out of there, you know that you're good. And the Loctite is all melted. Let's see up in there. You just want to get the flame basically up into the cap there. Like I said, just going to heat that up for probably about 30 seconds, maybe a bit more. Just till everything starts getting hot, you start seeing some smoke coming out. Heat it up in there. And then once that's heated up, just going to take your pipe wrench here, start unthreading it. See all the Loctite falling out. And there it is. So we're just going to clean those threads and it's ready for the new cap. All right, so we got the shock shaft end all cleaned up there, ready for some new Loctite. I have the new end cap here. I've cleaned that all out. And I've switched the O-rings over and I've put a bit of sealer on that O-ring. So that way when it's all threaded back into the shock body, everything is nice and airtight. So I'm going to take our red Loctite here. Make sure you use red. We're going to put a little bit on the threads here. And don't worry about getting too much on here, because when Fox builds these, they put a ton on. And we're just going to thread the new cap on. And then once you get it tight, just grab your pipe wrench here and just give it a little bit more. Yeah, it's all good. And then once that Loctite hardens up, it's not going to move anywhere. I can go ahead and remove it from the vise. Let's see if I can put this down here and have it stay. really clamp it down to keep that shaft from spinning. Crank the vise back tight, flip the shock over. Then we'll just slide the shaft body, or the shock body back down. Thread it back in. And once you feel it bottom out, just grab your wrench. Give it a little tighten. And the sealer that we put on the O-ring will help with getting those everything sealed up in there, so you don't have to put too much force on that. And we're going to let the Loctite dry up, and then after about 5-10 minutes or so, we'll put some air in there, and then we'll do a test to make sure nothing's leaking. Okay, so I've gone ahead and filled the shock up with air. I filled it to about 100 psi. It's been sitting for about 10 minutes now. It's holding pressure. So once you have that and you've confirmed it's holding, I'm going to take your air pump off. And what we're going to do is we're going to submerge the shock in water there and look for any bubbles. And that'll confirm that everything is good with the sealing of the shock body. I have to grab my digital one, and the battery was dead, so I had to revert to the old school dial one. But good thing about those, they don't have a battery to worry about. They always work. Okay, so we're just going to take the shock, and all we need to do is submerge that part of it in water, just to look for any air leaking around the Schrader valve and around the cap. Just let it sit in the water for a minute or so, and if you don't see any bubbles popping out anywhere, then you know that you're sealed up and everything's good. This one seems to be okay. That's how you replace a cap on a Fox float shock. And if you want to add an evol chamber to it, it's the exact same process, other than you get that evol chamber to put on. It's a little bit harder threading that on with the shock shaft clamped into the vise, just because the part that hangs down here interferes with the vise, but definitely it can be done. You just have to be a little bit smarter how you do things. I hope that helped everybody.